Isn't it interesting how many stories place this emphasis on vows, oaths, and promises, but yet do we really think about them in our day-to-day lives? And this video is probably going to sound very similar to my resolution video I did just a little while ago, but I think there's a bit of different imagery and kind of context here that kind of set it apart. So anyway, in regards to stories, there are generally two forms of promise or vow takes. And the first is that of one fulfilled by honor. And now this kind of conjures that classic image of a knight with their coat of honor, basically, and how they've sworn to live their lives. And it's basically by their willpower that they fulfill it day by day. It's the choice they make each day to basically get up and live their lives by the code they've sworn oaths to, or maybe it's the loyalty to a country or a team or whatever. They're duty bound in a sense, but that's a kind of thing that's chosen by will. It's fulfilled by the will, their choice in the matter. Which brings up the other side to how these oaths and promises are, and that is stuff of basically being a power beyond just the person who's making the oath. And it's kind of interesting to think about that, because what would the world look like if we were suddenly forced to fulfill the whatever promises we made? And sometimes that is because basically the kind of oath taken leads to consequences when it's broken by someone in it. And so it's just kind of interesting to really think of and think what kind of world that is, where people are almost forced by this force of nature to fulfill their oaths. And another kind of examples of oaths and promises I can think of come from the Bible. And the first one that's kind of interesting is in Genesis 15, which is basically God making a covenant with Abraham about Abraham's future descendants. And what's interesting about this in that in a time where there are certain rituals that are being performed and so forth when two people make a covenant with each other, to basically put the responsibility of fulfilling them on both of them. In this instance, while Abraham sets it up, God is the one who fulfills the covenant ritual. So in essence, God is taking full responsibility for fulfilling the covenant that he's made with Abraham, which is just kind of an interesting thing to really think about and meditate on. And now as to the other example, it comes from Matthew 5:33 through 37, which is part of the Sermon on the Mount. And it is where Jesus basically says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And this is very interesting because in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is talking about how his kingdom, how we should live, and the ideal way of living. And the thing with this is that he basically goes on how you've basically been told to swear by this or swear by that, but I say is that you should just let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you said you're going to do something, do it, and if you said you weren't going to do something, don't do it. Don't make this whole deal about making vows and so forth. Just whatever you do, let your words be true to, well, whatever you say, let you basically, how should I say this? Whatever you do, whatever you say, do it. In essence, I don't know why I stumbled over that, but yeah. But yet, that kind of contrasts with today's world in that it seems pretty often that we will see people who say one thing and then do another, or maybe they're only paying lip service to this ideal they're espousing, while expecting others to basically fulfill it or live it out. And for the first point, I kind of remember this instance, or at least this example used by Robert Kiyosaki, in that you shouldn't always trust a politician to fulfill their part of a promise. It's after you've given them what they want. Generally, that is helping them with an election. And the thing is, they may have made certain promises to some people that, if I've done, basically, if you help me win this election, I will do this and this for you, or I will support you in this. But yet, once they've won the election, oftentimes their concerns are, how do I stay elected next time? And so they're almost already campaigning for the net's time, and so they're making these concessions to other people. So what they promised you may actually take a back seat because now they want to please other people, and they've already gotten what they want for you, but they need to secure their votes for next year. And so it's just kind of a thing of don't actually give a politician what they want until they've given you what you want. The world would be way different if we did that. But anyway, the other side to that is the examples of people paying lip service to an ideal. And I guess the best kind of image for this is when someone is saying, oh, this is how things should be, and so on and so forth. But the people who deal with that are over there, and they're the ones dealing with it, and they have a different perspective on the matter, but they're saying, no, this is how things should be. And the thing is, if you put those people who are saying, these are the ideals I espouse, and this is how things should be, and why aren't other people acting that way, is that when you put them in a situation where they could showcase those ideals or live up to them, they're often like, why are you doing this to me? Why did you do this? This isn't right. I don't want to deal with it. It's like, it's just kind of an interesting thing that really shows you who they actually are and what they're actually willing to do. And I think it's kind of interesting in that, at least in the United States, we have this freedom of speech that allows us to say whatever we want. But sometimes it's like, what if we were forced to fulfill the things we idealize or we've said we hold true to? It'd just be a different world, in a sense. But we can't really judge people when they go off like that because we're probably all a bit guilty about it if we're being honest. We've all probably said we would do something that we didn't, or we said we wouldn't do something and did it anyway, and maybe we've broken a few promises along the way. But the thing is that maybe that is why we have these stories. Not to necessarily condemn us in all our failures, but to inspire us to do better, to treat our promises as having value and keeping to them, to treat the ideals that we espouse as things that we should hold in high esteem, and to treat our words with having a weight that goes beyond just hot air. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this matter, so why not feel free to share yours in the comments below. And anyway, if you enjoyed this video, you can like and share it so that others may see it as well. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to our channel. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lionsman Media, where we celebrate stories and the lessons you learn from them. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.